Wish that I could see back from 53.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Listening Sessions. Today is like a special episode. We are doing the first one with someone else apart from me, and we are doing it on video. So today we have Mihir joining us. Mihir is like a brilliant musician, guitar player, songwriter, and he's released a lot of songs which are available on SoundCloud. I'll link all of those in the description. He's also my friend from college. So we went to college together almost now 15 years ago. Yeah.
It's been a
And
while.
it's been a while. Yeah. And back then we recorded a song together, which was like in 2011 or 10, I think. So yeah, we reconnected recently, and I thought it'd be cool to have Mihir on the podcast. Um, so I think Meer, just to maybe start off, if you can tell us a little bit about like your musical journey. I know that you were playing the guitar. Whenever I used to see you in college, you were always playing the guitar, and then obviously you've kind of evolved a lot. So maybe a little bit about like your musical journey and how you became a musician.
Yeah, so actually, it all started in college effectively. Though I would go a little before that. So my dad asked me after my 10th standard exam, like, what instrument do you want? Or what do you want as a gift? So I said, can I get the drums? So he went to a music store and he found the drums to be too expensive. And he's like, okay, here's a guitar. so so it started there. And then after that, I mean, like every other person, maybe I played it for some time, was not that into it. Then after first year of college, I think or after the first semester, I got back home and some of my friends had started learning, and I was listening to them play. And then also in Manipal, we had all these guys play the acoustic jam session and stuff like that. And I felt like maybe something I should try and do. It seemed like a cool thing to do. So I started effectively second semester. I went to Udupi, bought another guitar, cheap guitar, and I just started playing. And I realized I could pick it up really quick. So that's where the journey started. And yeah, since then I've just kept playing. It's kind of like an extension of my arm, effectively. Since then, and it's grown into more than just the guitar now. It's songwriting, it's production. I went to do my masters in America. That gave me an opportunity to kind of get my hands on a lot of stuff that's not as easily accessible in India in terms of recording stuff. So yeah, that's where it is now. I won't say I've released a lot of songs, but I've written maybe a handful of songs.
Yeah, and how is it like? I think when you went to the US, you also started performing, right? Like in a
Correct.
few gigs. So how was that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call myself a great performer. No one comes to watch me on stage. I would say maybe people come to listen to my music. I always say that if I can just stand behind a wall and play my music and still move people, that's my goal. I'm not a front man as such,
Hmm.
but yeah, I enjoy. I found a lot of community in that in like performing live. A lot of my friends over there are from that basically background.
Just to kind of go through how someone, a musician like Mihir, would kind of compose a song. So there's a song that Mihir is working on, and he's agreed to share it with us. So we'll just go through, how he went about creating that song, how he came up with the lyrics, how he came up with the music, and how they all kind of go together. So we get a sense. So for like, especially for me, like who's not like a musician, it's kind of it's like black magic, right? Like how do people come up with uh, music, and match it with lyrics and then come up with the whole song. So I think it will be interesting for me also to learn how that process happens. So that's what we're going to do in today's episode. So we'll start off with me talking about his song. Yeah. So that's what's next. Okay, so I think to start off, we'll start by listening to the song first, so all of you kind of get a feel for it. But before we do that, I think Meer, if you can tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write this song, what was the feeling that brought you to this song? It'll help us all appreciate the song a bit more.
Yeah, so I guess you can say it's so it was written mid 2024. It was a time in my life where there was some uncertainty because of some visa issues with being in America, and I did not know where I was going to be next. And it was triggered by a conversation with my dad. Uh, in general, I think like we have different ideologies and different outlooks on life, and so that's where it started from. But the song is about a lot of other general things and other things within the relationship between me and my dad, as well as I've seen other children and parent relationships. So all of that is kind of mixed into one. So that's what the song's basically about.
Okay, cool. So I think we'll talk more about it, but let's listen to the song. It's a beautiful song. So here it is.
I wish that I could see back from 53 when the world was singing, I'm glad to be free. It wasn't a safe place for the man you needed to be. Now you sit and suffer what seems like eternity. But love was just a word you used to know, and carrying it around is just another chore. No one showed you how it feels in your bones. If you don't love yourself, you can't love me more. I hope you find your peace of mind when you walk out that door. I will try to be by your side, even if I have to lie. Now when we speak, you think you know what's best for me, but I shake my head in complete disbelief. How have you not seen what I have become? You don't know me, I'm your only son. In my heart, I find some sympathy for the man who showed me how not to be. So I helped you out, I built you a home that you can live in till time's no more.
So yeah, it's a beautiful song. The first time I heard it, I was almost in like tears because I could relate to a lot of what you're saying in the song. And I can't. I hope that one day you will release it. But yeah, all of you are getting like a sneak preview of the song. Um, I think one of the questions I had is like when you have a thought like this, you have a feeling, you have a certain situation that you probably want to talk about, right? What is your process in terms of coming up with the song, right? Like, do you think of lyrics first, or do you think of the music first, or is it like kind of built upon each other? So how was your process, and maybe how was it for this song? Maybe it differs song to song as well.
Correct.
So yeah, maybe if we can talk a little bit about that, it will give us a bit of insight into how that happens.
Yeah, it definitely differs song to song, and this one is one of those that just spilled out when I was ready for it. So I sat down in my room and I'm like, okay, let's record something. I set up some mic for my guitar, mic for my voice, and I'm like, okay, let's see what I can do with this. Uh, I don't exactly remember how I came up with the uh, the whole, like the guitar part in general, but I'm pretty sure what I do very often, as I told you, my the guitar is like an extension of my arm. So what I often do is tinker around with it all the time, and I would have probably fallen into this progression just while playing around, not planning on recording or anything like that. And so when I sat down, I remembered that I have this idea. So I would have tried to play it through the mic and just improvise some melody, some song, some singing around it. And as I told you, the trigger was a phone call. So just before this is possibly when the phone call would have ended. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, let's write a song about that. So I'd say music came first, probably melody came next, and then when you just improvise, you kind of fall into some words.
Hmm.
I'll be singing gibberish, but in the middle of the gibberish, there'll be some words. So based on that, I would have started writing. Now this song, as recorded right now, would have come out in about 40 minutes of me
Wow.
just working. Yes, it was a very quick song. It's like a gift.
Hmm.
Songwriting, as people say, there are songwriting gods, and all
Yeah.
you can do is be as ready as possible when they're showering the blessings on you, that you can just immediately put it down what you need to put down. So that's the gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like when you're tinkering around with, let's say, the music, right? Maybe chords that you're playing around. So what are the kinds of ideas that you tried for this song, or generally that you try when you're tinkering? Like, is it just you say, okay, do these two chords sound good together, or is there some kind of structure to that?
So in terms of this specific song, it actually is because of the guitar. So I had a guitar that's a dreadnought shaped guitar, so it has a lot of low frequencies that it produces. And while playing that guitar, I just liked the sound of what I was playing. I would have just fallen into these shapes. So nowadays, when I take my guitar, I'm not actively pursuing some specific chords. I'm very much just playing whatever is coming on my hands and just staying there. So I would have fallen into this, and really it piqued my interest, I'm guessing. So I would have played it for a long time, and then figured out, okay, what goes next, what goes next. Now, obviously, what goes next is just playing around. I have some knowledge of music theory, so based on what chords I liked, I'm trying to figure out, okay, these chords are part of this family, so I can go here next, or I can go here next, or I can go here next, and then just trying these permutations out and seeing what actually fits and what I like to hear. At this point, I don't have a melody, I don't have lyrics, so I'm just trying to see what chords go together well. So that's how I would have fallen into this kind of chord progression that is used in the song,
Right.
at least for the verse. There's, I think, the basically the song is four verses, and there's a middle section which is slightly
Yeah.
different. So all the four verses, that progression I would have followed it.
Hmm.
The middle section is where I would have probably, while recording, I'd been like, okay, I need a section that's different from these other sections. So I would have thought more about the chord progression and come up with that chord progression based on some theory.
Right. And I think like I've heard this in jazz, right? For example, there are saxophone players like the greats who say that when I go on stage, I don't know what the next note is, right? And I just play, right? But that's only possible if you have a lot of familiarity with the instrument, right? like a beginner who's just picking up the guitar can't be like, I learned three chords, now I'll just like kind of think and it'll come to me, right? So um, I think the point I try to make is that the more time you spend with the guitar and the more time you listen to the sounds, even if it's not through like music theory and so on, but like the more familiarity you have with the sounds that come from the guitar, that's probably important to then say that okay, it comes to me naturally, right? Is that like your experience or
Yes, definitely yes. So, uh, yeah, without just playing the guitar so much, my hands won't land in certain spaces. They're landing without much thought at this point. It's almost subconscious, which is actually not good because what happens is I don't practice anymore. I
Hmm.
just do whatever comes naturally. If you're basically doing what comes naturally, you're not going out of your comfort zone and you're not pushing yourself to become a better guitar player. That's how I think of it, anyways.
Hmm.
But yeah, so my hands are naturally falling in places because they've done this for a long time, and that comes from learning other people's songs, like covering songs, right? So automatically you're learning, okay, this chord goes here, this, and then you gain some muscle memory from that, and that's how that happens. Now on stage is a different thing. I don't think I have the nerve like the jazz players to be like, okay, I'm just going to improvise, and I don't have the skill necessarily for that. But yeah, it's you're right about that. That's a good point.
And I think the other part which I struggle with is to differentiate the sound, right? Like for example, if you have like a G chord and a C chord, right? In relation, I could probably say that okay, this is a C and this is a G. But if you just play one chord, it's difficult for me, like uh, ear wise, to kind of exactly identify what the chord is, right?
Even
So
I'm not very good at play like identifying a single chord. I think so. Relative, what people say is relative pitch can be learned.
hmm,
Perfect pitch, you are either born with it or you don't have it.
yeah, I
It's
don't
very
get.
difficult to learn. So if
Yeah.
someone plays a note, it's very difficult for most of us to decipher what the note is. But if they play two notes, you can tell whether the next note is higher, lower, how much higher, lower. That's something we can learn. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think that familiarity with the sound as well, even relatively,
correct.
then tells you like, okay, does this sound, does like when you play a G and then a C, does it sound good together, or it doesn't sound good together. So I think all
Yeah,
of that plays into eventually being able to do it, naturally, as opposed to, and it's not a thing that's gifted to you, right? Like in the sense that you're not born with this ability to naturally play the guitar. It's just the time that you've spent with it and how much you've practiced, right? Like I think that's also another, maybe a little bit of a misconception that, of course there are very gifted players who are naturally gifted, but a lot of the players is just about this time that they've spent, right? Like with the guitar.
yes, I do believe. I mean, that 10,000 hour thing maybe makes sense. I've definitely spent quite a lot of time with the guitar. I mean, it's to a point where it's beyond, like, I think people might be like scared of my relationship with the guitar. Even back in college, I used to literally be watching a TV show. The guitar would be flat on the bed next to me, and I would just be strumming it,
Yeah.
just with my fingers, and that's it. It's like, yeah.
No,
So
I
I spent
remember
a lot
like
of
because I remember we used to watch football a lot together,
correct.
and me used to always be sitting and strumming the guitar while we were watching the football match, or just playing some notes, and it was subconscious. It's not like he was, kind of practicing, but it was that way even then. So now I imagine like it's a different level of that.
Yeah, basically, I mean, it's an extension of my arm. That's the best compliment I've gotten. That my grandma told me that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, okay, so I think uh, we'll dive more into it, right? Specifically into the music, the lyrics, and the melody, and how you come up with all these different aspects, and finally how you kind of produce the song. Um, so let's kind of get into it. So I think one of the things that struck me most about this song was lyrics, because I think it was very powerful. Some of the things that you were saying in the song, um, and I think I do a bit of writing myself, not songs, but like in general, and it's very difficult to kind of take the thought that you have and put it on paper. And with music, of course, it's so much more difficult because you have to like kind of build the music around it or sync it with the music. Um, so I think it'd be interesting to understand what was your songwriting process for this song, but also in general, right? Because I think uh, with this song, I think it was a specific trigger, and it kind of was a very specific emotion that you wanted to express. But with other songs, of course, how do you go about it? And I think one thing which you all would have noticed about this track is that the lyrics are like front and center of the song, right? The focus of the song is the singing and the lyrics. Um, so yeah, so tell us a bit about how you went about writing this song, and I know you said it you did in 40 minutes. So how did that kind of happen, and then what was the process after that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I had the chord progression, and I would have probably been singing some gibberish over it. While singing the gibberish, the melody and kind of some structure of words or phrasing, we call it phrasing, would have come up. And in the process, some words also would have come up, like some vowel sounds would have come up. Like I like if this sentence ends with an O or an E, it sounds good to me. It's
Hmm.
purely subjective, obviously.
Hmm.
And so I would have had that, and then I would have been like, okay, I need to write lyrics to this melody and chord progression that I have. And as I said, it was triggered by a phone call with my dad, and we have an interesting relationship. We have very different ideologies, different outlooks on life, and yeah, in general, I feel like he tries to read me from his point of view, and not from a fresh perspective where what is not like listening to me and then trying to analyze. He's like, okay, if I was in your spot at your age, this is what I would have done, so I'm pretty sure this is how you're also feeling. That was the basic seed of the thing. And I was like, I'm very empathetic in general, so I was like, okay, I need to go back and kind of think about why is he like this, like what is the reason. That's why I start with, I wish that I could see back from 53.
Hmm.
He's born approximately in that age
Hmm.
range.
Hmm.
And then I talk about like that part where like, okay, this is how the world was, this is what basically wanted to point out that he grew up in a certain kind of world, and that would have framed his worldview, and that's what he has to go on. And so the first two verses are basically that, just saying that this is what your circumstances were, you did your best in your circumstances, and maybe they're not the best for this age or this time, uh, and to understand me, Jim. So that's how the first two verses came, and then I did the next two verses just came. I don't think I really thought about it in terms of. I mean, obviously, there are multiple conversations I've had with him over the phone. We speak for hours on end. We agree to disagree. We do a lot of stuff, and in through all of that, I would have felt these things, and they would have been in me somewhere. And then it was just a matter of putting it out and putting it out in a way that it fits the music in terms of phrasing, and then rhyming. I mean, it can be cheesy sometimes when you use a lot of rhymes, but I generally like the rhymes. It feels resolved when you rhyme well. So uh, that's all I can say about this song, because it was really quick. So there wasn't much thinking. I actually pulled up the book that I wrote it in. So I'll just give you a quick shot. Maybe I take a photograph and you can put it on the screen later. But as you can see, there's not much scratching out or like rewriting. There's a lot of different order. So I think lines came in different orders, and I kind of moved them around to make it fit. And some words you'd see that before I had a different word, cut it out, put a different word. So that's the process with this song. But generally, I also struggle with lyrics. I am generally a music first person. I have tried the other way around and failed very miserably, trying to write words first and then put music to it. Though sometimes I feel that is the right way, because the song is based on the emotion that you're trying to give out, and the words is what gives out those details and that emotion. So Uh, Generally, my process is I'll come up with chords, I'll sing some gibberish, some words will come out that will be a seed for an idea for a song, and that's generally my process.
I think that's very interesting because, like, I think the part which you said about singing gibberish over the chords, right, and then identifying like vowel sounds or sounds that you might want the particular line to end at, or you might have in the middle. I think that's very interesting because that's something that we don't come across, right? You generally come across the chord and then you come across the lyric, but the bridge is also this kind of this thing, right? And this is very popular in music in general, even in instrumental music, where a lot of piano players, um, they kind of sing gibberish over the song just on the tune, right? Without actually, it's just to verbalize the tune. They sing this, they just sing like ba 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 boo, 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 like that. They just kind of sing. It happens a lot in blues and again jazz.
Yeah,
So maybe you could for one of the lines in the song, right? With the chords that are there for that line, if you could show us what was the vowel song you thought of, and um, maybe, I mean, just like how you would have kind of gone through that, if you can.
yeah. So I guess if you see the first verse, the ending sounds of all is all ease. I wish that I could see back from 53 when the world was singing, glad to be free. So those E's are there, right? So it would have come up with like I would have been singing gibberish and just said a random word that ended in an E, and I'm like, that sounds good, and I would have. So something that's kind of an example of how it would be.
But if you played with the chord, like, uh,
Okay. So the melody would have come before the words effectively.
hmm,
It's
the
I struggle.
the
Yeah, that melody would have come, and that melody comes because of I'm hearing the chords,
hmm,
right? So if I'm hearing the chords, I'm like, okay, I'll sing whatever comes to me. There's no thought process in this. As in him, like as open as possible. I'll just sing, and then some melody will come. Generally, the melodies are very close to the notes that are in the chord.
hmm,
That's generally how it comes. But I feel like that's where you can differentiate between a really good melody writer and an average melody writer. If you go to like Radiohead or Nirvana, their melodies, the notes that they sing in the melodies, they're not necessarily played in the chord, and
hmm,
that's how they get those special things. Now, obviously, it doesn't make sense to only sing notes that are not in the chord. It'll be very like,
off, yeah.
yeah, it'll be a I'd say like an very artistic kind of song. It's
Yeah.
possible. Obviously, everything is possible. There's no wrong or right in music.
So I know you have your guitar with you. Could you show us a little bit around, couple of lines on this song?
Okay, sure. I can. If you want me to play the first verse, I can play the
Any
first
any
verse.
verse, like just around the sound and
Okay, so
then the lyrics.
the second verse is kind of a favorite of mine because I think it's like a really good, it's good message. Love was just a word you used to know, and carrying it around was just another chore. No one showed you how it should feel in your bones. If you don't love yourself, you can't love me more. So yeah, that's the sentiment. Basically, is no one showed you what love is. No one's taught you what love is. You didn't have what I believe is real love. So you couldn't love yourself. If you can't love yourself, I don't think you can love other people. So that's the sentiment behind that verse.
Yeah, I know. I think that was one of the verses that uh, really hit me because that's something I've actually learned much later in life, right? Like,
Correct. Same.
we all say that we love someone, and all of that, but we have never learned to or even thought of loving ourselves. or even know what that means,
Correct.
right? And I think that's a beautiful line. Great. I think, I mean, at least that tells me a lot more about uh, the songwriting process, because I remember in college I used to try to write songs, and I had learned maybe like 4 5 chords on the guitar, and I used to always kind of think, how do you match this, right? I had some, like, offhand I would have heard something like a minor chord means, it's a sadder sound, right? So when you're saying something sadder, you go to a minor chord, something like that I would have heard, which is not necessarily true, right? Like, but at that point you don't know, so you try like that. But I think it's interesting what you said about the singing, right? Because when you sing the chords, then automatically it's a verbal thing, and then that verbal thing matches better with your verbal lyrics, right? So it does that bridge between, um, just the music and just the lyrics. So I think that was very interesting for me.
Yeah, effectively, I think it basically like you're cooking up something. You have different ingredients, and based on how much of each ingredient you put, you can change certain things. But at the end of the day, the combination of all that is what matters. That's what you want to portray in terms of the emotion you want to have people experience.
Absolutely. I think that's the next part of what I want to discuss, which is, how you have used these different instruments, right? To kind of mirror that emotion or enhance that emotion of what you're trying to say. So we'll get into that next.